Often underwriters may get a bad rap with advisors when things go wrong. The policy gets declined or the exclusion added on. What do you see from advisors that do this really well, and what do you see that advisors don't do overly well in this area?
It's the preparation. That pre-assessment process is super important, and getting the information up front, it makes a big difference.
The thing that drives me nuts is when in advised communities and people talk about like their experience with underwriting and a client went and had a mental health care plan 12 months ago and an insurer is putting a mental health exclusion on. How ridiculous. And the way I look at it is like the advisors saying that stuff that so clearly don't understand underwriting.
The art of asking probing questions. You need to know when to say, tell me a little bit more about that. And you need to know when to say, that's fine, that's enough information.
Hello, welcome back to a My Risk Advisor episode. And with my co-host, I've got Trent Bacon. Today we've got a very special guest. We've got Gabi from PPS, the big dog in underwriting at PPS. So thanks for joining us, Gabi.
Thanks for having me.
Cool, Gabi. Underwriting is the most important part of our business. Like we love our BDMs and state managers who are in the room today, but underwriting is by far the most important thing. So talk to us about how did you get into underwriting and how did you get into such a senior role?
So I was, when I left school, I was a little bit lost in what I wanted to do, and I was lucky enough to be given an opportunity in an insurer in new business. And when I started there, I took a really big interest in the underwriting role and the risk and analytical side of things. I was offered a role as a junior underwriter, and through my career, I've had some excellent mentors who have helped me with the operational side and the leadership side. I moved to PPS almost 10 years ago, and under Marcello, I've developed into the leader that I am now.
So Gabi, who was the first insurer who you worked for?
So the first insurer I worked for was Westpac.
Westpac. Okay.
Westpac. And so I started in new business, and they had a trainee role, which I went into, and I had an excellent mentor there that helped me develop my underwriting skills. And it made me realise the value of insurance and the value of what we do on a daily basis.
And so when you went to PPS, and I'll let Trent ask the question, but I'll take over. When you went to PPS, that must have been the very beginning of PPS, yeah?
It was. I started in March 2016, and we hadn't even launched at that stage.
Yeah, cool.
And I have come from big insurers. I worked for Macquarie, I worked for MLC, CommInsure for quite a few years, and we launched in June of 2016. So for 3 months, we didn't have any business, and I have been developing advisor guides, forms, things that I've never done before. In the very start, Marcello and I were doing tele-interviews. So we literally did, and before we even had sales, we'd go out and see advisors. So we were doing almost the whole gamut. We went from doing tele-interviews to assessing applications, and yeah, it was really exciting being a part of a startup.
That's cool.
Yeah, when I'm always interested in this, when we talk to underwriters and what they've done previously, when you're looking at your team, where have they mainly come from? What industries? Have they come straight from uni? Yeah, where are you finding your underwriters?
Yeah, so we have a real big, a lot of different experience in our team, and Marcello and I, we've specifically built our team around experience, and we complement each other with our different types of experience. So between Marcello and I, we probably got about 50, 60 years experience just in underwriting, but we have somebody who was an advisor, and we've had someone that was in claims. We've been lucky enough to have 2 tele-interviews that have developed into underwriters, and quite senior underwriters now. So they had experience just in administration. Just there's a lot of knowledge within the team.
Yeah, cool. So 50 to 60 years combined between the two of you. Either Marcello is very old or you started when you were 10.
Marcello is very old.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. So talk to us about the difference between underwriting at PPS, because PPS, it's for any advisors out there who haven't used PPS, you have very clear occupation guidelines of who you will insure. It's kind of the cool club. If you're a part of it and you're invited in, you can come in. And if you're not a part of the cool club, you can't. So is there any difference when it comes to underwriting your PPS policies versus the broader market?
Yeah. So I think generally speaking, our philosophy is a little bit different in that we individualize our risk, and we understand that our clientele or our applicants they're professional. They're all professionals. So doctors, lawyers, even now that we've expanded eligibility, they're usually highly educated and they understand their medical history and they understand the questions that are being asked of them. So we trust their disclosure a lot more than we may have done in the past for somebody who may not really understand the implications of their health or the questions that are being asked. We don't think that insurance it's not one size fits all. So we do like to individualize our assessments to each of them, to each of the members that come through.
So often underwriters may get a bad rap with advisors when things go wrong. The policy gets declined or the exclusion added on. What do you see from advisors that do this really well? And what do you see that advisors don't do overly well in this area?
So I think the first part is the preparation. So even before it gets to us is a really important part of it. So that pre-assessment process is super important, and getting the information up front, it makes a big difference, and making sure that you've got adequate disclosure. Clients that are prepared for the underwriting process, it makes the whole process go a lot smoother.
All right, Gabi, in terms of, PPS is an advice product, so advisors are introducing the products and going through that. So what are some of the common underwriting hiccups that happen, not because of you and your team, but just between the advisor, the client, and the insurer?
Yeah, so I think the underestimating of the risk that is being presented to us. I think mental health and lifestyle are a big barrier when it comes to underwriting and advisors. And there's a reluctance for clients to talk to their advisors openly and candidly about these types of things. I think that the advisors and your clients, you have a very good relationship, and you can have maybe too good a relationship because you know their financial situation and you know their personal situation, and clients may not be as open to you talking about their alcohol use or their hazardous activities, or their mental health. So advisors can be underprepared, and they can underestimate the significance of those risks.
The thing that drives me nuts is when in advised communities and people talk about like their experience with underwriting and a client went and had a mental health care plan 12 months ago and an insurer is putting a mental health exclusion on. How ridiculous. And the way I look at it is like the advisors saying that stuff so clearly don't understand underwriting very well. And it's just the thing that I think we try and do a lot at Sky is we try and have conversations with our underwriters. As I said before, our relationship with our underwriters is more important than our relationship with our, the BDMs. Sorry, guys. And so because it really matters, understanding where the goalposts are moving, because that's what happens. And so, I think that's something that I see from other advisors is underestimating kind of the impact of like mental health and what the impacts on claims are.
As AI becomes a bigger thing in the world and with everyone's roles, how is PPS enhancing that to make your lives easier, make our clients' lives easier, but also still keep that personal touch when dealing with people at the end of the day?
Yeah. I think tech plays a really big part of what we do, and we want to embrace it a lot more. There's a lot of work that needs to be done from our perspective, but the first way we can use it, I think, is just to build efficiencies, because there's a lot of work that I think underwriters do in general that is inefficient. So if we can use AI and the tech to build this efficiency, and where there is structured data, you can use it to summarize it. I think the making of assessments is a little bit still in the future, and nothing can replace a good experienced underwriter, because there's so many nuances with underwriting, and with those particularly complex cases or those very borderline cases, you just need that human intervention.
And following on from that question, just so other advisors who are watching and listening understand, how important is that relationship with the reinsurers? And like, because they're much bigger companies, they've got, the ability to maybe invest in technology and AI. They build out their underwriting rules engines and stuff. Maybe not specifically with the PPS reinsurer relationship, but more broadly in the market, is there a lot of insurers leaning on their reinsurers to help with that AI build out? Is that something that RGA have talked about?
No, I think this
Yeah.
is something that we want to drive ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we want to build our own platform and be able to customize it the way that we want to. Our reinsurer will support us and they will help us where we want to, but I think we really want to drive it.
Yeah, I think, from our conversations we've had with other insurers, they talk about reinsurers and investing in AI, but, then they change a reinsurer and then it all goes in the bin.
Yeah,
And so it's
yeah.
like the work we've invested with other insurers
Yeah.
with all this stuff, and then they change a reinsurer. It's like, well, okay,
Yeah.
that we wasted our time in
Yeah.
that investment. They wasted their time in that investment. So I think it makes a lot of sense, PPS owning that and building that out internally.
In your opinion, how important is an advisor underwriter connection? What makes a really good connection? How do you like to be contacted? Is it emails? Is it calls?
Yeah.
Is it text messages? What do underwriters typically like?
I think text messages is probably not great. I think we might be crossing that a line there. But we built our philosophy on relationships. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and there's nothing like a really good relationship to help build trust. It can make a huge difference in an assessment, in understanding your client, because if I trust you, then I trust what you're telling me about your client. So we develop our panels based all around this relationship model. It makes things go smoother. You can work more closely with your underwriter. You understand how the underwriter works. The underwriter understands how your office works, and you can work to each other's strengths.
Yeah. I think from an advisor's point of view, the things that we hear from older advisors who've been around for a long time is, I've just able to, have a good relationship, so the underwriters are going to maybe go outside of their guidelines. And that was what we'd been told. And it's like, that's not our experience.
No.
But the experience from our point of view, having a really great relationship with the underwriter, is them knowing our process, the way in which we work. So for our clients, they fill in the fact find directly. There's no advisor coaching or support to answer any of these health questions. And it goes directly to the underwriter, when most of these pre-assessments will often come via the advisors, not coaching in a bad way, but just discussions after discussions with the advisor. And our underwriters understanding that about our business is incredibly important, because they know that actually these clients have been told about their duty to disclose before I get this pre-assessment. They've been told about the potential hiccups with mental health or backs even before. So underwriters who really understand our process can then read the pre-assessment with that in mind. And that's where the relationship is really important for us at Sky.
Trust is a huge part of it. And knowing that I can trust the disclosure that's coming through. And when you say the way that your office does your pre-assessments, then you can trust the information that comes through. But also then you can learn from us how we want to see things come through, or the types of questions that we'll ask. And that's where the relationship really works. And just being able to contact an underwriter, to have a chat over the phone, like we're always available within reason. Just to talk through cases, because sometimes that's all it takes. Or if things looks like it's going awry, pick up the phone, have a chat. I think that the relationships can forgive a lot of sins.
Yeah, and as advisors, I know we all like to think we're perfect, but we do make mistakes. And so it is important to get grace from the insurers and get grace from the clients, and also give grace when the underwriter makes a mistake, to be like, hey, we understand that was a mistake, and we will ask you to wear it, or we'll wear it as a business. And so in your experience, what's kind of some of the behaviours from an advisor's point of view that can kind of set this underwriter-advisor relationship up to success?
Yeah. The trust piece is huge. And I think it's getting to know each other that really sets it up, and understanding how the advisor's office works. So the underwriter, if you get to know the advisors and their clients, that really sets it up. And then the advisors, making sure that if we're asking for information, give us all the information. Don't just give us bits and pieces that you think are going to be relevant. And if you don't agree with what we've asked for or what's been done, give us a call and talk through it. If you think it's irrelevant, why? Okay, maybe you're right, maybe we're wrong. Like, we're happy to have those discussions, and that's what really sets it up. I think giving us all of the information up front is hugely important too.
Yeah, and I reckon historically there's been a much more of a combative relationship
Yeah.
with advisors and insurers. And that's like, plenty of times I've been coached to, oh, don't give, if the insurer's asking this, make sure it's, part of the code of practice and not outside of
Yeah.
that and all of this stuff. Instead of going, well, trust that you know your code of practice, what you can and cannot request info on.
Yeah.
And then we'll trust you're doing it to try and get a great outcome for our clients. And so we're all working together for the client's benefit. And historically, I think, well, the way I've been coached from other really experienced advisors is be very skeptical, and it's a much more combative relationship,
Yeah.
which we don't subscribe to here at Sky.
No, it's certainly a team approach of client, Sky, and underwriter, not working for the client to get an outcome that's unreasonable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're moving into a pool of insurance, yes, it might be great for that individual.
Yeah.
But if we do that 1,000 times, 10,000 times, the pool of insurance is going to be really bad potentially.
Yeah.
And it also helps at claim time as well. If you know the business is acting with integrity and trying to do what's best for PPS, doing what's best for our client, and doing what's best for Sky, then at claim time we can have like robust discussions of going, actually, I think it is best to pay this claim, even if it didn't tick exactly every T or dot every I, because we're not next week going to come and say, hey, can you pay out this claim that has no evidence or reason why it should be paid out, because we're not going to ask that question.
So at Sky and across the industry, we've got a lot of new entrants into the advice space, and I know for sure they don't teach underwriting at uni. They barely teach insurance, let alone underwriting. If you had 5 minutes with all the new new advisors coming into the market, what is your number one thing you'd be trying to teach them?
The art of asking probing questions. You need to know when to say, tell me a little bit more about that. And you need to know when to say, that's fine, that's enough information. It's not an easy thing to teach. And I think that underwriting in general is not an easy thing to teach. It takes years and years for underwriters to be skilled on how they're skilled. There is education, but there's no university courses. There's a lot of on-the-job training that we do. And it's about asking the questions and how you ask them and knowing when to ask more questions.
Do you know how many questions you could possibly answer in an underwriting tele interview? Because we've done our fact find and it's very tele interview like. If you answer yes to having a back injury, we ask you another 10 questions. So we have about 522 questions.
I would say most UREs have about 100,000 different questions in there. So you can't know all the questions. Look, at pre-assessments, you can't ask all the questions. It's just not reasonable. But if you can ask the majority of questions, like your pre-assessment questionnaire is excellent. It asks most of the things that we need to know about up front. And I think that would cover off 80% of what you need to know up front.
Yeah, it is. It's something, 500 plus includes some of the information that you guys don't. But we think ours is very good, but it's not great yet. And we, being Trent and Em, have completely redesigned our questionnaire. So what is one common myth around underwriting that you think? And then I'll give you what I think your common myth is.
I think that the biggest thing is that we like to say no. And it's a huge myth because ever since I started underwriting, it's about how can we offer cover, not how can we decline cover. We're constantly having conversations amongst the team. We'll just bump things off each other and just say, what about if we did this? Or do you think that there's a possibility we might be able to look at this here? Or let's have another look at it in 6 months. We're always looking for a way to give cover, not to decline it. I think that's the old adage is that it's the business prevention unit, but it's not.
Yeah, I think a common myth is similar to that, but underwriters they want to get clients covered, and when new things happen, so mental health is a massive thing. Like the amount of exclusions on mental health these days compared to 5-10 years ago is incredible. And if advisors aren't in this space often, they'll be surprised with the outcome. And I think one myth is that you're putting these exclusions on because you're being discriminatory or because you're just being incredibly risk adverse. I think the myth that's the myth. But the reality, from my point of view, is at the end of the day, it's data. That your claims data and the industry-wide claims or the reinsurer's data says that this is a big risk that's coming. And so how do we protect for that? And so, yeah, that's my myth about underwriting.
I don't have any myths. We have a Mythbusters series, which we bust all the myths out. So
That could be one of them. We could use your. Actually, we could get you in a science outfit. After no, that'll freak you out even more.
I think mental health is interesting, and it's not one size fits all with mental health. That is one area that is very individualized when it comes to assessment. So yeah, you're not everyone with a mental health issue doesn't have a mental health exclusion.
Yeah.
There's standard to decline and everything in between.
With mental health becoming more prominent in terms of people seeking help and things like that and being more upfront about it, do you think that extra data is going to make it easier to, say, have policies without exclusions, or do you think that's going to lean towards more declines? What do you think that extra information is going to do?
No, I think that it's going to be less stigmatized. So we are going to hear more about it. And I think it will lead to more individualized assessments because we are actually asking more questions and we're trying to find out the individual circumstances. And the more we can understand, the more chance we have of getting a standard rate outcome. Yeah. I think it will go less to definitely less declines.
Yeah, it is one of these. Mental health is such an interesting one. Every time we've got a lot of new associates, new to the industry, young, passionate advocates who keep telling us that, it's discriminatory and how bad it is that insurers are giving these exclusions. And my response is always just like, let's just look at the claims. Like, let's look at the money being paid out for this, and then we can kind of backwards calculate why insurers are making these decisions. At the end of the day, insurance is a pool of money that, I am contributing to that pool. I hope I never pull money out, but we've got to make sure that there's enough money there to pull out if and when we need to. So my final question, I don't know if Trent's got any more questions, but if there was one piece of advice that an advisor could do and implement this week to improve their business, whether it's their relationship with the insurer or whatever that looks like when it comes to underwriting, what should we be doing?
Better fact finding. That upfront fact finding is so vital, and building relationships.
And so talk to me about the better fact finding. That's more to do pre-assessments and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we hear you saying, hey, give us better pre-assessments but then every other insurer is telling us how they're drowning in pre-assessments and how it's a scourge. We only get, 8% of the pre-assessments that we get in. Like, how are you thinking about managing that, as a business, as an underwriter?
I have historically been on the side of I hate pre-assessments, but we actually have done studies and actual studies that have shown that pre-assessments are valuable. So yes, it has been, 5 to 10%. Our pre-assessment, and very crudely, it's about 20% turnover. And that's even underestimating. I actually think it's probably more 30%.
So 20% of your pre-assessments become an application. Yeah, oh, wow. That's really high.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So to me, that just shows the value of it. And a good pre-assessment will convert easily. And I think that we've always said that we want to front load our pre-assessment. So that means that we'll get reinsurance approval if we need to. We will also ask more questions if we want to make sure we'll get the right assessment. I'd rather ask more questions up front than have a poor outcome when the application's submitted.
Yeah. What's the difference of typical pre-assessment? How long does that take versus a full application, do you think, for your underwriters?
Probably about the same. A good pre-assessment, yeah, if we've got the information that we need, it would probably take about the same.
Why do you think, and I don't expect you to actually understand or know why, but what's your guess as to why PPS gets such a lion's share of PPS to application when what I'm hearing in the market, it's sub 10%. Why do you think that is?
I think it's got to do with the fact that we get a lot of pre-assessments from our supporters. So people that want to write with PPS Mutual, we have a limited panel of accredited advisors. So, and we only see pre-assessments for clients that are eligible as well. So I think that already narrows down the pool of pre-assessments that's coming to us. But definitely we see advisors that we work very closely with are the ones that are giving us the pre-assessments. So those ones are going to convert.
I guess that makes sense. If you're not eligible, you're not sending it to PPS or most businesses. Thank you, David, our underwriter, for taking all of our pre-assessments, even though you're not occupationally eligible. But David just looks at the occupation, sends us an email, and he provides us a lot of grace by saying not eligible. But yeah, I think that's probably what I would imagine to be true.
Yeah.
Most people aren't sending the plumbers to you, while other insurers would be getting them as well.
Yeah.
So your other point was about building relationships with the underwriters. How would you suggest is best? Is it me and Dave going out for steak dinners when I'm in Sydney next?
They would love a steak dinner.
Or is it, setting up meetings? Is it putting in assessments and having a phone call? What's the best way for you guys?
First point, always like a face-to-face meeting makes a huge difference. And that's via Teams, even phone calls makes a difference. Just that initial get to know each other. We can find out about your business. You can find out about us, how that personality works together. There are certain people that just won't gel, and that's fine. And when we're looking at aligning advisors and underwriters, there's a big personality piece in that as well. So you just know some people won't get on. And when you align someone and has a good relationship, it makes a huge difference. Get to know your underwriter. They're nice people in general.
Thanks for your condolences about my Melbourne storm, Dave. Heartfelt.
Yeah. Hey, Gabi, this has been super interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and answer all our underwriting questions. If there are people out there watching and listening and going, actually, I want to know more about PPS, I want to know more about underwriting, I want a job at PPS as an underwriter. I'm sure every insurance company is hiring underwriters. How do people get in contact with you?
Well, they can give me a call directly if they want, or they can call Bill if they want to know more about, not Bill.
Shadia.
Shadia
is much more nicer to talk to than Bill. Yeah. Bill doesn't smile.
Smiles more.
Yeah.
Just give us a call.
Yeah.
We're always available for, just have a chat.
Thanks, Gabi, for joining us. And if you're watching this and you enjoyed it, there's a playlist that will be showing on the screen now for previous episodes, and look to see you again. Thank you.